Dear. This is Meet Katie.
This is Elite Force. You're listening to Meet Katie on Lowering the Tone. It's the third episode of Lowering the Tone with me, Meet Katie. This time round, I have a fantastic interview with Simon Shackleton, Mr. Elite Force. If you haven't listened to the show before and you don't know what to expect, please remember it's a podcast, not a promo mix. It's as simple as this. I play a load of stuff I like in the hope that you like it too. And you never know, you might discover something new or stumble upon a style of music that you didn't realise you liked. If you want the track listing for this show, you need to go to meetkatie.com and subscribe to the mailing list. And if you want to contribute anything to the show, please email me on mark@meetkatie.com. Thank you for everyone that's retweeted, shared the links for this show, just the general promo that you've been putting into it. It's really appreciated. I'm going to show that appreciation in the form of a competition later on. I'm going to give away some mix CDs from myself, Lee Coombs and Elite Force. So stay tuned.
Where is it? Where is it? I know it's here somewhere. They said that it should be. It was promised to me. And I want it. Right now. Where is it? Is it in this box? Is it on this screen? Can I get it by pulling this lever up? How about if I stand on top of their purple mountains of lies and scream? Scream for it. Will I get it? I want it. Right now. Where is it? Where is it? I want it. Right now. Where is it? Where is it? I want it. Right now. Where is it? Where is it? I want it. Right now. Where is it? Where is it? I want it. Right now. Where is my freedom? They told me it was here. Where is my freedom? All I can find is fear. Where is my freedom? Where is my freedom? Where is my freedom? Where is it? On this piece of parchment that the devil sent for the white-wigged, buckled shoe-wearing crew to design and sign sublime democracy or hypocrisy. Democracy or hypocrisy. Give it to me. I want it. Where is it?
What a tune. Evil 9 on the remix. I'm going to keep it up tempo for the next 20 minutes or so. Get deep into the mix. Here's some techno from the Ukraine. You're listening to Low in the Toe with me, Meet Katie.
You're listening to Meet Katie on Lowering the Tone.
If you like the sound of what you're listening to right now, you can catch me next weekend, Friday the 8th, in Bordeaux, France. I'll be playing at the B59 Club alongside the Electro Bugs, Ep3 and Nooch. And then on Saturday the 9th, I'll be playing at the Mindfunk second birthday party alongside Headflux, Costas G and my good friend Andy Beckett, Mr. ABS. And that's in Colchester in the UK. Last Mindfunk was absolutely phenomenal. So if you're in the area, try and make it down. Right, let's get onto this competition. I've got 10 copies of CDs from the Lot 49 catalogue to give away. They're mixes from myself, Elite Force, Lee Coombs. I've also got the 30Hz album and the Lee Coombs Light and Dark album to give away. All you have to do is do a tweet, share a link, or make a comment on the iTunes page. Also rate it if you can. So anyone that I see contributing a bit of promo to this podcast, I'm going to put your names in a hat and get my little boy, Charlie, who's 6, so it will be fair, to pull 10 names out of the hat. Then I will announce the names via the mailing list. You just let me know which albums you want, and I will post them to you. The good thing about this is many of you are already doing this, so just think of it as a little thank you. Not a bad thank you either. We've got a bunch of Lot 49 t-shirts, but we can't seem to find them. Maybe next time. Right, enough chat. Let's get back to the music. late night vibes for you.
You're listening to me, Katie, on Lowering the Tone.
Going to play one more track and then we're going to slip into something even deeper. Probably the deepest music I've played on this show. Don't forget we still have an interview coming up with Simon Shackleton. beat a bit of Jack in Discotheque, courtesy of Funk Investigation. Right, as I mentioned, we're going to slip into something deeper right now. A lot of you have commented that you enjoy the more low-slung areas that I've exploring on this podcast, which makes me happy. But turn it up, kick back and enjoy.
You're listening to me, Katie, on Lowering the Tone. You're listening to Make Katie on Lowering the Tone.
Rare I do dedications, but Shanti O'Toole messaged me on Facebook and suggested I play this track. I already had it and I like it, so I guess it's a dedication.
City life where I go back, 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 back. Nightlife, city life, where I groove back, run the record back. City life where I groove back, run the record back.
I have a few shout outs to do. I'd like to say congratulations to Alan Cross, Dirt Revolver, on the birth of baby Joel. Well done, mate. Send my regards to Mum. Also, I'd like to give a big shout out to Joseph McLean and the Funkatech Records crew. Joe's the guy that designed my website. You should check out his stuff. I'd also like to give a shout out to Ben Remember and Jamie Records, should I say. I look forward to catching up with you soon, guys. Been meaning to give a shout out to some other really good friends of mine, the Wickerman crew. Simon, LJ, Roger, Big Dave, all the crew up there in Scotland. Also, Mr. Matthew Miles, Paul Blanford and Benji, Death Proof Records. Matthew Miles is the guy that's done all the design work for the podcast.
is Lee Coombs, and you're listening to Lowering the Tone.
enjoyed the music you've heard on this podcast, head over to meetkatie.com, hit subscribe, and I will send you the track listing. I've got my interview with Elite Force coming up shortly, so stay tuned. So thank you for listening to my deeper selection. Hope you enjoyed it. Let's get into that interview of Elite Force.
Exclusive.
So, Simon, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Mark. It's very good to see you. Welcome down to the farm on this very pleasant autumn day.
we set the podcast up in your kitchen.
We have, yeah. So there may be a few kind of erroneous sounds coming out. There's various dogs and one puppy particularly who's a bit of a tearaway. So, yeah, apologies for her.
That's not your wife, is it?
No. Yeah, she doesn't come in through the dog flap.
House trained.
Yeah, not often anyway.
So, where should we start? Thank you for everyone that sent over questions for Shaq. I call him Shaq because your name's Simon Shackleton.
Yes.
In case people don't know why I'm calling you Shaq, that's why. I could call you Elite.
Yeah, that's not so good either. Simon or Shaq, it's fine.
4C.
Dear, oh dear.
So, let's get this started. Firstly, you're probably one of the hardest working DJ producers I know. Well, you probably are. Ironically, Alex Metric as well is. I know you're not similar in sound or anything like that, but you're similar in your work ethics.
Yeah,
you're just always doing it. It's just you never stop.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see, especially these days, I don't really see as much option. It's really hard as a profession. It's very, very hard to dip into and dip out of again, and there's just so much to do. Like we were saying earlier about how you used to give away some of your responsibility to a press person or to a someone else was running the label with you or whatever, and those options just aren't there anymore. There are no margins. There's no money to pay for that stuff. No. So, you kind of I think most people who are surviving in the game are doing that, are just working very, very hard to just to keep things ticking over, really.
There's obviously a ton of stuff I would like to talk to you about,
sure.
and the questions are extremely varied. The reason I'm not going to read out who asked the questions is a lot of these questions are similar to other questions that other people have asked.
Yeah.
For other artists, so I'm just going to ask you the questions.
Yeah, that's fine, man.
U&A.
Yeah.
What's going on with the label?
I think the word backburner probably applies pretty much to U&A. I mean, it's the last 15 months I've found it really hard to be all that motivated with the label. It's been partly to do with, I had a bunch of artists that I'd signed to the label who have, who've their music's evolved. It's maybe evolved into something that I'm not as keen on as I used to be. And also just for me recently, just searching for really good quality peak time music's become harder and harder. I think peak time music generally has just become, it's got such a smell of retail park about it. Do you know what I mean? It's yes. Kind of just big commercial. You just imagine so many of those tracks that are successful at the moment just being played in Next or I don't know, wherever it might be. It's just for me very, very commercial music and more commercial than really what I want to be doing. So
this is the rise of EDM, isn't it?
Well, it is the rise of EDM, yeah, and it's it just is what it is. It's but what I think's what for me has been quite disappointing about it is how every genre has been sort of sandpapered by this sound that kind of I guess started out with dubstep becoming very, very heavy, and then those sounds were almost immediately kind of when dubstep started becoming very successful, we just transported into every other genre going. So progressive house, how did that get to be what it is now? I mean, it just does make no sense on any level. And I can understand dubstep. I can understand how, say, that deep and dubby sound of Benga and Scream early doors, I can understand how that has sort of transformed into something that's like heavy metal, hard as nails. But a lot of that's just due to it being governed by the tempo. But then that sound has just infiltrated everything, and it's kind of changed everything. It's
progressive house is half of it's trance now, with the breakdowns being big arpeggiated riffs rising, and then it sort of kicks into a sort of electro complextro type sound, and that now is deemed and it is almost like there's a template. There's a template for that sound.
Yeah, but in what way does it, in what way does that differ from what electro's become as well? I mean, electro's kind of become more like hard house, I suppose, but
Yeah.
it's kind of, I don't know. It's just for me, it's just a shame because in all of that happening, that focal part of the music, which is the groove, has just been lost in so many cases. It's just been obliterated by the need for a lowest common denominator hook. And I'm not interested in that. Never have been, it
So
just doesn't do it. For me.
Is this in line with why like you've decided to put Zodiac Cartel to bed?
Yeah, I mean the thing with Zodiac Cartel is I a lot of the peers that I was making music along with when I started doing Zodiac Cartel have either quit or they've just gone off in complete tangents and are doing music that is truly horrendous. So it's kind of, I tried with Zodiac Cartel. I tried doing some stuff that was, say, a lot deeper than the Elite Force stuff, and I really enjoyed making the music. But it's not really, it's not really Zodiac. Zodiac Cartel doesn't wear comfy slippers. It's not. That's not the vibe. It was much more to do with peak time. So. So yeah, I just got to the point with it where I just couldn't work out where to go with it.
Well, I think I can speak for a lot of people that sound will be missed because it did sit in the gap between breaks, house, electro, very percussive. I think I always played that. I played quite religiously.
And I really like the sound. Obviously, really like the sound as well. I was the one that made it, but it's and it's not just to do with marketing and where you position stuff. But like you were saying, it existed in that hole between breaks and electro. Well, that hole's now so vast. It just doesn't. There is no hole to occupy.
To promote it.
No, exactly. Yeah. There's nowhere to really make it work. I mean. Where are you going to pitch yourself to go out and DJ? Who do you want to play alongside? And I've done a few of those shows where I've been playing alongside kind of, noisy EDM guys, and I literally just wanted to punch my own face off. And I didn't want to, standing there in the club, just not really wanting to be there at all. It's not my idea of a fun weekend. So
that's a shame.
No, sorry.
A shame.
No, seriously. But, I would. And I suppose you can, to an extent, you can argue, well, just make the music that you want to be making and whatever. But,
it's not that simple.
It's not that simple when you're running a label as well, and you are trying to promote it, you're trying to market it to an extent, you're trying to sell enough copies to at least pay for the process of having it mastered.
Yeah, well, I had this conversation with Marvin. About running a label, I don't think people quite grasp, that they're just running a label now. You're not. It's no get rich quick scheme. You can't just knock out tracks and build upon that and make a ton of money.
Yeah,
there just is not not money coming back to the label from digital sales. Even a decent like after we pay everything out, everything's. We make about 30p a download. Yeah, you're not getting rich.
Well, you are struggling to cover costs. It's the bottom line, isn't it? I was looking at this the other day, and there are releases that we've done in the last 18 months that won't have covered the cost of promo and the cost of mastering
and artwork and
and all of the other stuff that kind of comes on top, but actually won't have covered the cost of doing it. And that's that's not to you're not even beginning to take into account the time and energy and all the rest of it that the artist has put into making the music. And a lot of the time that's you.
Well, also is that when it's not your piece of music, the time you're committing to promote an artist as well.
Yeah,
you're not accounting for. You're not an hourly rate for the label that you own.
Yeah,
so that money's lost as well. That time's lost. Yeah, so I guess you got to sort of stand there and go, is it worth it?
Well, it is exactly, and it's this isn't necessarily like this isn't me being particularly negative about. I'm not trying to put across a negative message because a lot of what I do is about trying to be forward thinking and trying to do stuff that is exciting. So, that you and if I mean, if I was getting a deluge of great quality demos and stuff that was getting me really excited, I'd be releasing it. I'd be releasing it tomorrow, and I've got the label's done very well for itself over the years. It's got a decent name, we've got a good following, but I'm not going to release music that I don't believe in, because it's like you said, the amount of effort and work and time it's not worth it. So
there's got to be a plan in there somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's just how it is. It's kind of on the back burner a bit. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. You got a new single,
Yeah.
Stay With Me, which I played on my last show.
Thank you.
I love it. It's been referred to by you as classy breaks.
Yeah, well, that's
I like it.
I've created a little subgenre for my own piece of music. Well, no, I mean, I go on a lot of forums and I speak to a lot of people who are constantly bemoaning the fact that breaks doesn't have that depth to it. It doesn't have that deeper side to it that it used to have. Certainly when you and me first got into making breaks and writing breaks as well, the number of house labels that would have their B2 track would be a breakbeat.
Yeah, yep.
And a lot of house labels that do, you just think about like Bushwhackers labels and stuff. I mean, there was a lot of 124, 125 BPM breaks tracks, which were really nice because for what you and me do musically, it joins those gaps, isn't it?
Well, that's a good example. Plank.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
His label, I think, was a good example of quality tech house sitting next to breakbeat tracks, and someone like Bushwhacker, for those that don't know, is an awesome DJ.
Absolutely,
He's a great DJ. So watching guys like that, or Eve Letty Richards play and drop in some breaks tracks in their set, but it actually flowed. It didn't sound alien.
Yeah.
It sort of worked. It was very inspiring.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes down to what the music does in the first place. And if you're a house producer and you're used to focusing mainly just on the groove of a track, you sit down and do a breaks track, you're going to focus on the groove of the track, and that's why the two dovetail really nicely and why they're sort of usable across different types of sets. Whereas the whole dynamic with a lot of break stuff, even down to the way it's mixed by people, is crossfaders, and it's cut and paste, and it's dropping a breakdown, and it's dropping. It's not about blending music together.
Scratching.
Yeah, a little bit of scratching, and maybe an MC.
Teasing him. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah,
I suffered at the hands of an MC last weekend. So
yeah, we've all been there.
So the connection between we moved really quickly onto breaks, didn't we?
I know. Well, it's something I get asked about all the time. It's something I get asked about all the time, and for me, that's like a massive part of it. Is when I DJ, and this goes back 15 years or whatever, but when I DJ, I like to blend tracks together, and I do quite long blends. I tend to mix stuff in key, and I like to go between styles if I can.
Movement.
Yeah, just movement in the set, and just exploring different areas, being able to take it properly deep and be able to build it up to something that's quite heavy. But the way that so much breakbeat stuff is structured these days is just about it's about just smashing people in the face, one big moment on the floor and stuff. And again, it's just not. I'm much more about the groove, and always have been, really.
Well, that with the new single "Stay With Me," that's very true to what you just said. Somebody's messaged in and asked about the vocal, because the vocal sounds very natural.
Yeah,
in an electronic track, which is it's an art. It's an art.
Yeah. It's a weird one. It's actually, I don't know if I should say it is in case I get clobbered, but I can't somehow imagine Motown or whoever it was to be clobbering me. It's an Al Green sample, and yeah, it just I had the vocal kind of on file for a long time, and it was just about trying to find the right sounds to go with it. Yeah, exactly. But it and then the vocals towards the end, I overdubbed some of my own voice on there as well, and did all the kind of big vocal stuff.
Yeah, it's epic. The ending's epic.
Well, that's a bit more the kind of Stereo Phoenix
influence.
A bit more the sort of progressive side of what I've been doing recently, and not being afraid of the music. So
it's good. It's going to be very interesting to see what people make of it. you know, sort of sales wise. You know, I hope it does appeal across the board.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, you know, I'd as much as anything, I just want people to hear it, and I like the idea of. I mean, that's partly why I put a Beatport chart up yesterday that featured. You know, there's a lot of broken beat, a lot of breakbeat stuff that actually gets classified elsewhere these days, and you have to do a fair bit of crate digging to find a lot of it, which I've always liked doing, and I'd actually rather these days spend my time doing that and searching for tracks that I find that are mine than going through promos and getting something for nothing. I'd rather own the track. I'd rather, you know.
Yeah, I don't mind paying for tracks that I like.
No, me neither, man.
You know, I don't understand what the problem is.
I know. I mean, it's not like you're asking for the world from people. It's, you know, drop £1.50 or a couple of dollars on a piece of music that someone spent a week and a whole bunch of stuff actually, you know, their time just putting together. I'm still a collector of music, even though it's all digital these days. By and large, you know, I'm still a collector of music, and it's you know, my Serato, I think I've got probably 3,500 tracks on there now, and I've only been using it for maybe 2.5 years or something, and that's the level of consumption of music I tend to get through. So,
well, you do like to play a long set.
I've been known to get self-indulgent now and again. Yeah.
What's the longest you played for?
I did about in Berlin this year. I did 7.5, I think, something like that. But I had to go to the airport to get my flights. It's cut it short, but
where was that?
That was at Golden Gate.
All right, okay.
Which is really such a fun spot.
Yeah, I've not played that.
Oh, it's really good. I mean, it's just one of those proper after hours joints that just. I mean, that the party that I played at had been going for nearly 48 hours when I came on. And the guy who owns the club's wicked bloke. He texted me that night at 10 o'clock. I got back to England, just about to go to bed, and it's like the party's still going.
Unbelievable.
That was Sunday night. You know, it's just
the Europeans. They look at it differently, don't they?
They do, yeah. And it's, you know, you look at the scene in Berlin. It's partly why the tempo is as slow as it is as well. Like culturally, people go to clubs for a lot longer than they do in the UK.
Yeah.
In the UK, it's almost like a football match of rowdiness. Everyone gets totally wasted in the space of 2 or 3 hours, and then they're gone.
It's even worse in America.
Yes,
because they've got less time.
Yeah.
But you know.
Yeah.
Well, you played Kazantip this year as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
How was that?
It was all right.
Yeah,
it was all right.
Like crazy town. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's the second time I've been out there. It was a bit weird this year because I had a really late set. I was playing at 5:30, which I would have loved if I'd been there to play house music and techno, but I wasn't. I was there to play breaks.
It was on a break stage.
Yeah, so
did they have the main stage for the breaks this time? Or was it
not on the night that I was there for 2 nights, and they didn't not on this. I think the night before they'd had the big opening night. So but yeah, so, I mean, it's a fun thing. You know, it's got a lot of character, Kazantip. It's a proper mission to get to, and
it's not easy.
Although it does, nothing about it feels that easy. And you know, I think for me to go there and really kind of cut loose and get into it, I think I'd need to be there for about a week and just properly submerge myself into it, not worry about DJing, just going, because there was some great stuff on. You know, there was a Jamie Jones night was on, Loca Dice was playing. There was some really cool stuff that I wanted to see, but I was kind of locked into doing what I was there to do, so I didn't get as much chance as I'd have liked. So
was it an in and out?
I was there for I left midway through the night on the second night, so I couldn't really get too deep into it really on the second night.
It's nice being by the sea though.
Yeah, it's lovely. I mean,
the surroundings are fantastic.
Yeah,
there, you know, they definitely go to a bit of effort.
Yeah, and it's got quite a unique feel to it. It's pretty much unlike anything else that I've been to. But you know, one thing I find quite odd about it is how when you look at the websites and stuff, it's almost sold like an 18 to 30s holiday or something. You know, lots of beautiful people on the beach and all the rest of it. But actually, you know, at the same time, how cutting edge is it as a music festival? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't feel. Certainly this year, it didn't feel like a particularly underground experience. It felt,
Okay.
you know, it's a very cool event, and it just seems that there's a bit of a discrepancy between the way they sell themselves and what they are when you get there. So,
All right. Okay, well, people bear that in mind. It's not an 1830s holiday, but it can be sometimes.
It could be, maybe.
So the One Series, you're bringing your One Series to London.
Yeah. Well, this will be the seventh one I've done, I think. And it's, you know, if people don't know about it, it's just the basic premise that it's one DJ, one room for the whole night, and the, you know, DJ sees it from start to close. Which, you know, for me just strikes me, we were talking earlier about music and how both of us have, and it's partly why you've set up this podcast as well. It's an opportunity to play a bunch of stuff that maybe you wouldn't get to play at peak time in your sets. Similar thing with the One Series.
Well, if I want to carry on DJing, I want to carry on getting booked.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you know, this is like just trying to carve out an opportunity for myself to spread my wings as a DJ. You know, and the very first sets I ever did were 4, 5, 6 hours long, and that was normal. And it, you know, the music was right across the board. So going from Nirvana, Stone Roses, Belgian New Beat, Acid House, you know, early sort of jungle, hardcore, whatever. It was literally pretty much whatever anybody wanted at the time. You had to have it, and it's just nice getting back into those proper long sets, and you just
that sort of summed up the big beat scene then, just as you said that.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people don't really make the connection between big beat and break beat.
Yeah.
Because they didn't come into it from that side, but both me and you did. You know, so, you know, Chemical Brothers playing some rock tracks, heavily social.
Weatherall as well, you know, Justin
Weatherall,
Robertson, John Carter and that lot, all very, very eclectic.
Yeah, and it worked. You know, it worked. Hearing just a big melting pot of ideas, and that's how both myself and you kind of drifted into breakbeat. You know, not by jungle, not by drum and bass, where a lot of people believe was the spiritual home of breaks.
Yeah,
obviously it has a major influence on the scene, but you know, I didn't come in through drum and bass. I was into breaks long before there was drum and bass.
And you know, for like. We're going back to talking about breaks again, but you know, for me, like, you know, around about 97 when Adam Freeland and Teo and Rennie, you know, did the friction things. For me, that was almost like a bit of a nail in the coffin for the music. And I don't mean to be controversial saying that, but what it did is it kind of it almost like, this is new school breaks, you know.
It made a claim on a sound.
It made a claim on a sound that didn't really exist before that, and it kind of, it almost forced a lot of people. It forced a lot of people away from it, but it also it was like, okay, if you don't do this sound, it doesn't really count. So I think from that point onwards, maybe, you know, what we did we just tended to be outsiders beyond that kind of that scene.
Yeah. Definitely. I remember Rennie Pilgrim phoned me up, and I'd never met him before. He phoned me. I knew who he was because he was kind of getting a lot of coverage from Friction, and because of Friction, should I say. And he said, "Oh, you're making new school breaks." I was like, "Am I?" Wow. Thanks for telling me.
Yeah. But you know, I don't know about you, but I listened to back to a lot of those tracks that I know quite a few people within that scene would say were absolutely seminal, like hip hop phenomenon and stuff like that. Leaves me so stone cold, I can't even begin to describe it. It just sounds like a bunch of scientists going nutty on a keyboard with ADHD and, you know, a bunch of acid or something. It has no real soul to it to me. I just don't understand the music. I'm not saying it doesn't. It just doesn't work for me.
Doesn't for you. Yeah. It was funny because there was breakbeat life long before that hit. It's just that, like you say, you know, people make a claim to a sound, and then it's theirs.
Yeah, quite.
Well, maybe we can do that later in the show. Talking about DJing, I've got a few questions from the Facebook I'd like to ask you. Do you have any favourite memories of DJing, or maybe a period of time where you were playing and you were just absolutely loving it and things were working for you and everything was aligning? I added some to that question.
Yeah. I mean,
It didn't actually sound like that on the Facebook.
I don't know. I'm not a great one for looking back on stuff. To be honest, I'm not a great one for like the rose tinted specs of it's great in 2006, and it was the sound was better then, or the vibes were better, or the crowds were better, because it's not necessarily the case.
Things are going pretty well for you now.
Things are going fine, and I'm you have disappointing shows, and
everyone has stinkers.
Yeah,
we all know that.
Everybody has them, and you have a run of 2 or 3, and things suddenly start looking quite gloomy.
Yeah.
But you have a couple of sensational ones, and
you're on top of the world.
Everything's great again. I mean, for me personally, there's been no better shows than playing at Burning Man over the years. That has been. It's kind of. You and me played there together for we both went for the first year, didn't we? It was 2009.
I was just blown away.
Yeah,
I was speechless. It all,
Yeah.
We got together before that, and obviously neither of us had been, so we were just going by what friends had said. Yeah. Trying to hunt through some music that we wanted to play.
Yeah.
With no idea about what was going to happen. Yeah. But I guess when you've been DJing for quite a long time, and you have an idea of why people are listening to you and why they come to hear you, I think we did have a plan. It's just we didn't know it was going to work.
Yeah, and we executed it really well as well. It was that was one of my favourite sets, I think, because it I don't know I can't really remember what our expectations were going into it, but they were definitely superseded by what happened.
We broke the sound only came down once.
Yeah, that's true.
Which any DJ that plays at Burning Man, you just factor it into your sets. You're going to have some stops. You're going to have obviously USBs helped things along
big time
with the CD players, because no moving parts now, so that's good. We were playing CDs at the time, and we still managed to get through with only one stop.
Yeah,
not bad in a 3-hour set.
No, it was a long set as well, particularly for something like that at Opulent Temple, where it's it's like
everyone gets an hour,
and everyone gets an hour, and we were given a good old crack of the whip, and it was amazing. But off the back of that, had to come back the next year, and then District kind of happened the next year.
Yeah, that was the first year, wasn't it? The first year of the year after, wasn't it? District.
The first year we went was Rock Bottom.
That's it.
Which was that tiny little tent in the middle of a huge bit of desert, basically. And everyone was like, "Oh, you should have seen it when it was the deep end."
It's like I kind of missed the boat.
Yeah, that's great, but
there was a sea of people here before.
Yeah, but that being said, I really enjoyed that set as well, and we both of us made a lot of friends, and that's just carried on year for me, and kind of ramped up. So the sets I've done closing District the last 4 years have just been amazing. I mean,
you've become you're a regular. You're part of the crew. You weren't a District teacher now.
I am. Yes.
So do you have to work behind the bar as well?
I did take a shift last year, but I actually bottled out when it came to it. I was just too burnt out. I had it quite late in the week, and last year I did 13 sets, so I know it was too much. So I dialed it back a bit this year, but yeah, it's you get to, I just couldn't have done that and be taken seriously by anyone. So
just stand there trying to make cocktails to give to people.
Exactly.
Imagine what that tastes like.
Yeah.
But we should say we should give a shout to the District crew. I don't think we have on this show so
no,
far.
Absolutely. I mean, those guys and girls have just been they've just been amazing, and they've become such a kind of core part of my family worldwide when I travel. They're not just based in San Francisco; they're kind of all over the place. And yeah, it's just a genuine privilege to stand up on that stage and play to a couple of thousand people with the sun going down. And just this year as well, they had Function One. Basically an amazing system. It was just perfectly dialed in. They had a guy who was walking around for the whole week with a laptop doing sound tests, 8-10 hours a day, just dialing it in, making it sound perfect. And the difference was it just included everybody right to the back where the bar was. Everyone felt just part of the party the whole time. And
so it had the atmosphere from the whole
just ramped it up another notch. So.
Well, saying that, like I said about you being a regular, I guess you could call yourself a resident in some respects.
Yeah.
Have you ever come across any residents or local DJs at any of the clubs that you played at? You kind of watch them play and saying, "This guy's fucking awesome."
I'd love to say it happens more often than it does. There are people that I have a huge amount of respect. There are people that's happened. I mean, people like Micah in Australia and Amber. I know you've had on the show.
Yeah, I had him on the first show.
I've never been disappointed with what Micah does at all. He understands the crowd. He reads it really well, day, night. Whenever
warm up, close,
exactly. Just kind of has it down. The same thing like in Hungary as well with Kevin Fine Cut Bodies, and going back a bit Naga as well,
Naga.
And then more recently Meta as well, those guys all the thing that they've got in common is they've run their nights for a decade or 15 years even, and they've been there week in, week out. They completely get the crowds and they know how to build things up. Equally, the Low Down and Dirty guys, going back to Tangled times. Some of the residents from Kingpin as well, and Technique, going back years. Urban Guerrilla guys were absolutely awesome. There have been there's been a lot over the years, but recently, in terms of newcomers, I just get the sense that a lot of kids that are coming in are seeing it in quite a different way, and they're maybe not getting the opportunities to do 2 hours or 3 hours while people are coming in. Right. Remember Will Saul as well doing the openers at Hum. Amazing.
Yes.
Used to love that. I'd get down there early just to see him play.
Same. Lots of people did arrive early because Will Saul would play an incredible set. Just a very eclectic, interesting set. I think the difference is that some people would like Will with Hum. He'd turn up and he didn't care about being the star. Yeah, he just wanted to play a really cool set. So if anything, he was digging through his own catalogue of music and thinking, this is cool. Cool.
But that's the function of the warm up DJ, isn't it? It's to what Will did brilliant is it was like he embraced the room, and you could see people. When they walked in, they felt like someone had gone up to them, given them a big hug musically, and you could just see him. He'd literally be there, you'd drop in tunes, and you'd see people making their way slowly from the bar towards the dance floor, and then it's like he'd gone fishing and he just picked a few out, and they were on the floor, and then always by midnight when the headliners started coming on, it was just primed and ready to go.
Working.
It's just brilliant.
Yeah, and now he's running Horse, is his label, and he signed Dusky, and the success that's gone to Will is very well deserved.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've got all the time in the world for Will, and his DJ sets have always been great. I think he's got a really good ear for melody as well. I think he combines those two things really well. I think it's excellent DJ.
I'm going to try and get Will on the show while I'm in Australia, hopefully. Talking about Australia, Rainbow Serpent.
Yes, let's do that then.
This is the second time I've actually mentioned it on the podcast because I was very pleased to get booked, but you were booked before me, and I saw you on the lineup, and I was looking at the lineup. I got Zabelia, and there's a ton of good DJs playing it. Opio's playing it as well.
Yeah.
And they got a lot of Australian DJs like Jamie Stevens and Phil Kay's doing it.
Nice.
Just a really good eclectic bunch of DJs. Someone said on the Facebook, "What you got any plans about what you're going to play?"
Not really.
Any kind of any idea what vibe or flow? That's an awkward question.
Well, it is. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it depends on what your slot is, how long it is. Something I've loved about these 1 series sets or the Simon Shackleton sets is that generally, I feel that I need a longer period of time to really get into that music, to just give it some time to breathe. You don't want to be mixing it. I mean, a lot of those sets are like 120 to 122, 23 BPM, so it's all fairly kind of mellow in a way, but you can build some real intensity through it by the track selection, and you need quite a big canvas to do that with. So it will like partly depend on that. If you get given an hour and a half and you're right in the middle of the night in between a couple of fairly peak time players, then that's kind of the way you've got to take it, really. But
yeah, well, that's not the moment you're trying to prove to the crowd that you're quite broad-minded as a DJ.
well, yeah, exactly.
No one will thank you for that.
No, and that's what DJing's all about. That, isn't it? It's about context. It's about finding the right music for the right time. And yeah, you know, both of us are certainly able to play really across the board. And you know, you always adapt, don't you? You kind of some crowds are really sort of boozed up. Some crowds are quite druggy. Some are, I don't know, like impress me crowds. They're standing there with their arms folded a bit.
What do you prefer crowd-wise? With like you just said, there's obviously a lot of types of crowds you can play to, and each has their own vibe. You know, it's like, you know, I think with a drunken crowd, it's kind of instant gratification. You know,
Yeah.
they're quite vocal. And
Yeah, and you kind of need to give them something quite vocal back. You know, you need to give them something to
Scream about,
leer along to, you know. But, you know, despite like all of these long sets, despite that and sort of moving a little bit more towards the deeper end of the spectrum, you know, this summer I had a lot of festival shows, and I set out to devise sets that were absolutely as punchy as they could be. So I'd spent, I think, 3 or 4 weeks editing stuff. Just even tracks that I was already playing in my sets, coming back to them, chopping chunks out, rearranging them, doing a load of new edits and stuff. And actually, by the time I got to the festivals I was playing, I'd done 160 edits this summer. Which was,
detailing
yeah,
your set,
like just.
yeah.
But I didn't want that 8 button. That might, you know, you'd ask yourself, why don't I play that track more often? Oh, it's because of those 16 bars there that just drop a bit. So took them out. And did that with everything I was playing. So when I actually came to play the festivals this summer, I really enjoyed it.
you
'cause
were
it was just
ready.
like,
Yeah.
oh, I can do this.
Yeah, it was exactly the way you want to play it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the same. Is that when you're playing and you're playing a certain track, you look at the crowd and you think, I wish this track was a bit
Yeah.
shorter.
Yeah, exactly.
Or that
Yeah.
bit just isn't right.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what it was about. It was just about fine-tuning everything. And also I did away with Serato as well this summer.
Yeah, you were playing off USB when I saw you.
Yeah,
Wicker Man.
exactly. I mean, I did it for the festivals because I just didn't want to be getting computers out and rewiring
Fucking
for
aggro, innit?
an hour's set or something. But I haven't been back. I haven't gone back to it at all.
All right. You just made the switch on to...
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's sort of looking at it and trying to work out. I mean, there are some real positives of having that technology there, but the USBs seem to become a lot more stable.
And a standard everywhere as well now.
That's the big change, isn't it?
I'd say a good 90% of
Yeah.
the places I played at, they're available.
Well, definitely, and I think if you put a pair of 2000s on your rider, even 6 months ago in some of the shows that we'd play, I think, you know, you'd have had promoters saying we can't do that.
Yeah.
But that isn't really the case anymore.
I think it's because more DJs are requesting them.
Yeah.
It's becoming more of a standard for DJs requesting. Because you remember when CD players, they used to request CD players and they'd be like, really?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, technology.
Yeah. No, it's changed immensely. It's what you can do with those now as well. Just the portability. I mean, I've been leaving my hotel room, holding my headphones with the USB stick in my pocket. I'm not even taking a bag with me. You know?
Just put it around your
it's
neck.
like
Pretend you're listening to your Walkman.
And there's something
Walkman.
hey,
Walkman.
dear oh dear.
Now we're showing, well, I'm showing my age.
I never said Walkman.
Walkman. Yeah.
Your mini display.
You need to get a Walkman.
Yeah, dear.
Fuck iPods.
Yeah, that's
a Walkman.
It's a whole angle. We'll do a back-to-back Walkman set or something.
Oh, Walkman's going to change the CD.
Oh dear.
So, well, I'm still going to talk about some of the playing stuff. Where in the world do you're feeling?
West Coast America these days, big time. Really enjoyed. I mean, a lot of that's come out of the Burning Man stuff. You know, I always enjoy playing in Berlin, in France.
We had a good show last Christmas in Berlin at Trace.
Yeah, really good. That was a savage place, that is. Really. It's like a insane asylum, isn't it?
It
really
is. It's where all the mental people go and bang their heads against the wall. I love it.
Yeah. So that was fun. I still really enjoy going out there. There's a lot of places that I used to play that have fallen off the radar, really, like China. I mean...
Yeah, China used to be quite right for shows.
And we had a good probably 4 years where we'd go out two or three times a year and play out there. And the first few times I went were amazing, just like blew me away. But that's all changed. That's all uber commercial now.
Do you remember when we played in Hong Kong and someone threw a bottle at me? And it hit me in the eye.
Yeah, that was a bad scene, that show.
A very dangerous place to be, that stage.
Well, the promoter never came to the show because he knew that was going to happen, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, he didn't pay the people, the gangsters.
No, well, the gangsters had, in fairness, the gangsters had stabbed him 12 times 6 months ago at one of his shows. So he kind of moved to another country.
Just to leave the DJs there to fend off.
Yeah.
I was a casualty. I caught a bottle of water in the eye.
Oh no, I remember seeing Lee because the bottles were coming over in the breakdowns, weren't they? And Lee had twigged this, so every time a breakdown came, he was just
ducking
down under the decks.
I wasn't that clever.
No, you've never been that clever, Mark.
No, thank you. So this is a question that I asked Marvin, and it got quite controversial, enough to me to have to edit some of his comments out of the podcast. DJs behaving badly. You've been DJ for a long, long time. You've obviously witnessed a ton of things. Have you? I
mean, by bad behaviour, do you mean just general loudness? And
I just mean DJs doing things that you go, "Wow, I've heard it. I've heard of people doing this, but I've never seen it," or or anything sort of, or promoters. I've seen a lot of promoters disappear at the end of the night.
Yeah, I've seen that happen a few times. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot that kind of comes with the territory, isn't there? Right? There's a lot of there's a lot of sordid behaviour goes on, and I've come across plenty of DJs that have been properly antisocial, and quite hard to get on with.
I think you get a lot of DJs that do sometimes believe their own hype. Yeah. I don't think that's a myth.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
I mean, I think, another thing like that you've got to bear in mind with all of that though is that if you're doing this on a regular basis, and particularly if you're on tour, and that's when, I did a Future Music tour a few years ago with the Chemical Brothers and Sven Vath and a few other people, and he was a maniac. Sven Vath, I mean, a complete maniac. And the Chemical Brothers, they had a big old trailer backstage, and they never ventured out of it after hours at all until the last night. And everyone was going, "We're going to have a tour party backstage and whatever." And I remember Tom opening the door of the trailer and sticking his head out. And at that moment, this chair and table set just came flying through the air, nearly took the bloke's glasses off. And it's Sven Vath literally just, it was like a Tasmanian devil, literally just getting everything and just throwing it at everybody. The whole kind of party scattered and just vanished. But, you know what it's like. You do those tours and you're doing 2 or 3 sets a day, doing flights in between, doing after parties, doing whatever it might be. And you get to a point where almost everybody loses it. You have a moment, you have moments where you just can't.
Well, you toured with Crystal Method, who are pretty famous for their tour antics.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were in the crew bus on that tour, so we did. There were 12 of us, and we did 6 weeks on the road, and I think we had 2 days off in that time. And we did the first 21 nights back to back. We did shows, and then on the 21st night we did an all ages show as well. So we did 6 p.m. till 10. House of Blues in Chicago, and then they cleared the venue out, and 45 minutes later we did it all again. So on the 22nd day, it was our day off, and I remember waking up somewhere in South Carolina at a road junction, and it was 100 degrees. It was just boiling in the bus, and it had broken down. And it was a 500-mile drive to get to our hotel, and we were all just dreaming of like this pool day. We were all going to get there, just have a few hours in the afternoon, and we got there with 5 minutes to spare before last orders at 11 o'clock at night. We sat in a Waffle House on this crossroads in South Carolina for about 6 hours, and eventually the breakdown people came, fixed us up, and we got there and we got to the bar. We ordered about 30 drinks, just sat there pretty much through the night, just getting leathered, and then the next morning it started again, and you're off doing it. But people just lose it. People every night on the bus, somebody went mental.
The touring, and also sleep deprivation and everything else goes with it. Hangovers permanently, calm downs as well.
Yeah. Well, there's a night, on those tours, everybody, like every night, if you're with a group of people, at least one person is going to properly get on it every night. And that's just the law. That's how it is. And you might have decided long since that that's the night you're going to be good, you're going to get to bed, you're going to give your liver a rest, whatever. And before you know it, the whole bus is just an orgy of stupid,
Right.
It's just how it is, right?
It's funny, isn't it? Because when you think about those times when you see it firsthand, and but you're part to blame,
Yeah, completely, yeah.
It's like, oh, well, why not?
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah.
And you can't help it. You don't really have much choice, to be honest. You're stuck on the bus, come what may. You're going to enjoy it or going to sit there being moody about it.
I guess it sort of harks back to Burning Man, really, because that's like a tour that doesn't move.
Yeah. Well, it is. And, do people, it's very rare you go through one of those weeks without having a dark times, You've not slept properly for 5 days and you're in the middle of a 6-hour set or something. It's just not that easy.
I don't know if you've ever had this, but sometimes when I'm really tired or when I've been doing a lot of travelling, I'm sort of DJing and playing, and I'm in my own world, and I kind of sort of have like a moment of clarity. I sort of look up and think, fuck, I'm DJing. I'm responsible for the entertainment, And I'm just sitting there and I'm in a daze where I'm so tired.
Yeah. Well, I did a tour in America earlier this year, the Game Changer tour.
That was big. There was a lot of days.
Yeah, I did 16 dates in 17 days, and a lot of them were flight days as well. So, there were a couple where it was short, it was drives and whatever, but by and large, it was, it was harsh. And there was, I got towards the got into the second week, and I was on a run of 11 shows back to back to the close of the tour, and the travel just. I was trying to get in from Canada back into America, and I'd literally come from the club in Canada. I had to get rid of the bottle of whiskey I had in the airport because I forgot it was in my bag, basically. In an absolute mess. Got to the border. I had an hour and a half arriving in the US to get my flight. And there were probably 600 people off an Air India flight doing immigration, and then me, and then behind me another flight came in just after me from China, like 400 Chinese folk who bless them, didn't really like the idea of queuing. Wasn't they weren't that au fait with it, so it just became.
For people that don't know and haven't been in any internal flights in China, it's like the second the plane lands, everyone's on their feet, but like it's not even stopped. The plane's still going.
Yeah.
And they're on their feet getting their luggage. No idea or concept of waiting or queuing. This is what happens.
Yeah.
This happens.
Yeah. Well, I was in that line for 3.5 hours. Like my hangover just sort of slowly.
Life just draining out of you.
I missed my flight by a good 2.5 hours. They rerouted me, and it ended up being a 14-hour travel day to get to the show. And there were 60 people there, and the promoter never paid me.
Oh man!
So yeah,
where was this?
Oh, I shan't say.
Name and shame.
Yeah, it was Houston.
Yeah, it just goes to show, doesn't it? It's like you get arseholes.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter how hard you work, how hard you try, and how hard you try to protect yourself from that happening. It can happen to anyone. So, Simon Shackleton.
Yes.
A question that I really like this question as it goes. Why did it take you so long to choose your own name for some product? That noise is the dog, Lucy, the little one. With
She's cutting loose
pillow.
on the beanbag.
She's letting go. She's really upset about that Houston promoter.
Yeah, she's
giving that pillow a good shake.
Oh, dude.
Gone everywhere.
Anyway, yeah, Simon Shackleton.
Sorry. So it's obviously you've produced it must be over 20 years.
Yeah,
you've been
yeah,
producing?
about 20 years. Yeah.
So 20 years in, and you've decided to put your own name to a project.
You can't really call it an alias, can you?
No. What changed? What made you do that?
It actually came out after the burn last year. So I came away from Burning Man and locked myself in the studio for a good few weeks and just made a load of music that I wasn't expecting to make at all. It was just quite emotive, quite progressive, quite techy. Certainly not peak time, really. Certainly not peak time for the sets that I'm used to playing. And needed somewhere to place it. It's taken me ages actually it took me a good 6 or 7 months to get around to releasing any of those tracks. So, Stereo Phoenix, which is the new label I'm running, that was born out of really a need to find a vehicle to release the music. So, you know what it's like, you're setting up a label, so then you dial it back and you need to design logos and you need to get your head around exactly how you're going to start releasing stuff. So that's really how it's come about. And actually, this year and in the last 6 months, the Simon Shackleton tracks I've done have been probably less dance floor again than what's gone before. And there's almost a bit of there's this kind of sound evolving out of them now that I'm really quite excited about, which is, just much more to do with my vocals. And I've been playing some guitar and stuff like that, albeit very badly, but I bought myself a Gibson and just started doing a few overdubs and bits and bobs, and I've always been a real fan of layered music in any form. I mean, that's it's what techno's all about at the end of the day.
I think we've always connected on a sort of psychedelic sort of element,
Well, I guess this is just the psychedelic element coming more to the fore,
right?
And just allowing
involved,
and just allowing them, not being afraid of the music, not having to look at the beats first and foremost in the big moments, but just not being afraid to, you've got a musical idea, then just go with it. And I've been trying to further get away from the beat side of things. I've been starting a lot of tracks outside of rhythms, which is something I haven't really done much of for a long time. So. But yeah, I've just been enjoying it. I mean, it is what it is. You kind of, it's the music I feel quite compelled to be making at the moment. So
it's working for you. You're getting a great response from DJs.
Yeah, I mean,
The next question is related to this. Is that have you had a negative response from? Excuse me.
That's all right.
Have you had a negative response from a lot of people that are kind of, I want you to stick to this? What are you doing?
I really haven't. I think there's a lot of mythology that goes around about that. I mean, I think, as far as Elite Force goes, sure, there are people that maybe love Ghetto Fabulous that incidentally I did 10 years ago now and would like me to do more of that. But that was 10 years ago, and for most other people who weren't as, the things with music, right, is when you're a kid, music means that much more to you because you've got all the time in the world. You don't have to worry about dogs chewing beanbags and all the other shit that you have to deal with on a day to day. So music is like, you can be a tortured student or a, kid at school, whatever. Music's everything. It's like, for me it was anyway, absolutely resonated. So when I load up the iPod or whatever, a lot of the music that still resonates that strongly with me is from back in the day. It's partly why I'm still into Underworld and Left Field and stuff like that. And it's partly why I'm like dissatisfied with some of the newest stuff maybe that doesn't connect in the same way. But that's just due to me getting older and that resonance still being there. And it's the same with, the people that might criticise you for not doing more of that one track or that style that you did in that era, they haven't moved on either. That's just because it meant that much more to them at the time. Yeah. We've moved on. Everyone else has moved on. They're just stuck doing that thing, and that's fine, you know. But I really don't hear that very often, and I try to be sensitive at shows that I do to what people are there to hear. You know, I don't.
It's awkward though.
It can be, but you know, I don't want to. You know, I don't want to like the set I did on the Playa this year, the Sunrise set, has had an amazing response from people. You know, just in listens and in the feedback, it's really blown me away. But I wouldn't turn up to a regular Elite Force booking and like do an hour and a half's worth of that, because it's not why you've been booked. So
a Sunrise set. Yeah,
exactly. It's, you know, music for a time and a place and a.
Yeah, I understand that. So look, we'll move on. Talking of music, Dust Bowl, which is our joint project.
That's our joint project.
Sometimes our joint project when we have time.
Yeah.
This is a question from the Facebook again. Why don't we get together more often?
Well, you tell me. It's time, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just time, isn't it? It's like you just said. It's, you know, I've got more questions here, and I could probably ask you today.
Yeah,
and that's just asking you questions about stuff you're doing.
Right, exactly.
You know.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I really enjoyed doing those. You know, and that was at a time when you and me were very involved with production stuff anyway. So, you know, both of us actually had a lot more free time than we have now.
Yeah.
You know, I was UNA was going, but I had a label manager sort of initially in the first year looking after things, and
I was the same. You know, I had someone looking after the label.
Yeah.
Whereas now we do it all.
Well, no. So you know, 5 days a week was music time. I remember we used to look at our diaries and stuff, and it'd be like, well, should we do Tuesday and Wednesday next week and the week after?
Yeah. Well, now we look into like the next month to try and get some time.
Yeah.
You know, the answer is as soon as possible. But,
yeah.
But when we do get together, what I normally find is we write a few tracks together, and then we're playing each other music at the same time, and it's always, maybe we should do some gigs, you know.
Yeah.
And the gigs always follow shortly, don't they? You know.
But that's what being in a band is, isn't it? I mean, you're riffing with each other and you're sparking new ideas, and you know, some of the Dust Bowl stuff, that Tipton track we did, which was wicked. You know, that was 6 hours work we did that in, start to finish, and then I had a day of just tweaking the production stuff. But basically, the idea and the arrangement all came together, and I did a track called Waterfall the other day, which is really quite complex with layering. It's got 24 vocal parts on it, and I did the whole thing start to finish in 10 hours. Like,
well, when you're vibing, you're vibing.
Totally, that's what it's about, isn't it? And you know, neither of us stand around on ceremony when we're writing music. We tend to get on with it, you know. It
kind of flies. I think that's why it's always been easy.
Yeah,
I've never turned up at a recording session with you and we've been scratching our heads wondering what to do ever.
Yeah,
you know, and that's a lot of music.
No, and we used to do if we had 2 days, we'd do 3 tracks. So we do 3 tracks, like sketch them out, and then usually have a day or two coming back and refining it and stuff. But I think that's what we did with Dust Bowl, is we just smashed it.
Yeah, it'd be nice to do some more stuff. Maybe. It's weird because, like, you always say, like, maybe after the summer, but it's always summer somewhere, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. It's true. But yeah, I mean, we'll get the diaries together and try and do it. We've been talking about it for long enough.
I know.
Should just get it done.
Yeah, and get a few tracks under our belts. Someone I just wanted to bring up that I saw has done a track for Stereo Phoenix is Etika.
Yeah.
Lawrence, big fan of Lawrence. He's excellent at what he does. He's a bike courier.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's first time I met him, and he's one of these guys bouncing around, like, you know, full of energy. You know, you're just thinking, oh man, you're going to break a leg next week. Or, you know, you're going to be in plaster. It's just a matter of time. He never is.
Yeah.
But he's delivered a track for you called Force Field.
Yes. So there's a nice little story behind that, which is just that he came to the Force Fields party that I threw on my farm, which was, for those who don't know, was just it's like an invite-only thing that I did about a month ago now. A bit of an experiment, I suppose, but just kind of been talking about it with my wife for years about maybe doing something like that here, and it had always been me that had said no. I just don't want to do it. I thought it'd be too much effort, or it'd be too complicated, and I'd end up with a major issues on my hand with it. But anyway, we did it a month ago, and it was wicked. It was a really, really fun weekend. But he came to the party and was so inspired by being here and the music that was played and all the rest of it. He 4 days later came back with a tune called Force Fields, which was great, and it's a really nice track. Since then, I just finished a remix of it. I actually put a Force Fields vocal sample onto it, and now that's gone back to him, and he's incorporating it into his own track. And it's going to be Stereo Phoenix 6, which will be out next month. So.
All right, fantastic. Because Mike Hume, how do you, Hume? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, Hume.
Mike Hume. He's got a few tracks. He sent me over a load of tracks, and he's like, check them out. I was like, yeah, what are you doing with this? I was just Shaq signed them all. I was like, bastard.
Mike's seen some
really
great stuff. He's done a track called Salt Lake that I'm particularly excited about, but it's about 11 minutes long, and I think it's 115 BPMs, but it's just this kind of hypnotic, grinding, techie house track at 115, which I just love. And I played it really early on in my Sunrise set at Burning Man this year, and it's just absolutely one of the best bits of music I've heard this year, and it's pretty exciting to be putting that out.
Oh, so. Great. I've always liked Mike's music, and a very nice fella as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's difficult. Mike's one of many people that holds down a full-time job as well as trying to make music, and I completely appreciate how difficult it must be for people to do that. I reckon I'll probably spend half of my week promoting the stuff that I'm making in the other half of the week, if I'm lucky enough to get that much time in the studio. But if you have a full-time job, all you can really do is make the music part of it.
Yeah.
And
then you find a good label to put it out.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work like that, because there's a lot of bad labels out there. I don't mean bad labels as in the music they put out, but the effort and the work that they will put into a release. Is not everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of people think that just putting up a piece of music on Beatport means that you're a record label.
Yeah. No, exactly. There's a lot more to it than that, and it's kind of about building a picture for the artist as well over a number of releases. And I really like what Mike's doing, and I like particularly since he started to take some of the tempos down. It's just all of a sudden there's a lot more space around the grooves, and I've always thought. He's one of those producers that has a really good feel for groove, but a lot of the time it's almost, in the past it's maybe been too lost in too many musical ideas. And it's just great to it's a nice thing about Stereo Phoenix for me, is just being able to say, okay, this is a label where the groove can be king for a while, and let's not worry too much about whether...
It's the biggest moment ever.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not really that bothered about that. I just want to come up with some music that just sort of warm, analog feeling music that makes me happy.
That's a good basis for a label.
Basically, yeah.
So I've got a couple more questions to ask you. In your spare time...
Spare time, yeah.
In your spare time, when you're not doing all the things that we've been discussing... What do you like to do? It's like, music or hobbies. Well, not hobbies, maybe sport or anything that you enjoy doing as an escapism from music.
I do. I do a bit of working out and stuff. I do quite a bit of exercise these days. I, go running 4 or 5 times a week with the dogs. Love bike rides around here as well, because it's just nice countryside. Hobby wise, I'm really into my photography.
Yeah, you are. Your photos are good. Yeah, well done.
I could probably do. I'd like to do a bit more with that, because it's just something that, when I'm traveling, I do enjoy that. That's something that keeps me really occupied, and I like kind of seeing the art in sort of small,
Yeah.
the small art in big things and whatever. And also gardening, which is kind of comes with the territory of living on a farm, but
Quite rewarding though, isn't it? When you can look back on what you've done for a day. Oh, I did that.
well, I like the way it makes you feel as well. I like the physical feeling of just feeling pretty drained, and you crawl into bed, but you know that you've made a difference. You're like we were saying earlier about the farm. One of the when it isn't so much fun is when you feel obliged to do it, and you maybe don't have enough time to do it properly. That's when it starts feeling quite tough. But particularly in the summer months, and I love it in the winter. I love it when it's really cold and crisp. You go out and you've got a bonfire going, and you just properly get involved with tearing out some brambles and whatever. I kind of like that.
Burning leaves.
Burning stuff.
You just love burning stuff. And my final question. This is the most important thing. We've been building to this. Mermaids. True or false?
False.
How do you say you don't know?
That's a one-word answer. You meant to say, look, we're very short of time. Can you please sum it up in one word? Right, 2 words.
I just don't like the way you dismissed that.
2 words. Photo, shop. In very close juxtaposition.
There's going to be this moment, everyone's going to go, Mark, you were right. You were absolutely right about mermaids. They're real.
Show me one.
Evolution.
Show me one.
2/3 of the planet's underwater.
Yeah.
Do you really believe that there's stuff out there we haven't seen?
No, I didn't say that. I just said mermaids and
Why
nonsense.
can't they be mermaids then?
It's false. That's why. That's because the answer to the question is false.
Actually be saying there's no God.
Well, let's save that for another day, but clearly there's no God.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Shag. It's
You're welcome.
really appreciated. Can I get a few stings off you?
Of course you can.
All right. Let's do them.
My name's Elite Force, and you've been listening to Lowering the Tone.
You can mix it up a bit if you want.
Okay. Lowering Elite Force.
Tone.
No, it doesn't work. This is Elite Force, and you're listening to Meet Katie on Lowering the Tone.
So there you have it. Lowering the Tone, episode 3, finished. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you've enjoyed this show. I try and keep it interesting and diverse and educational. Take care.